Tonight's speaker is Christie Tull, and I asked Christie to provide me with a biography so that I could introduce you all to her, and she gave me a 2-page resume, but Christie has had an exciting life so far. She was born in Cincinnati, Ohio, earned a degree with honors in English literature at Hollins University in Virginia. She's participated in an exchange program in Paris and went to film school in London, and she's always loved horses. Christie's work experience began as director of public education and special events for the American Kidney Fund and serving on the President's Commission for the Employment of the Handicapped under the Carter and Reagan administrations. She served as secretary for Cullen Robinson of the Texas and Southwestern cattle raisers. She's taught smoking cessation classes and worked in commission sales for Montgomery Ward. In 1985, she founded Greenwood Farms as owner and operator here in Werherford and ran it as an equestrian center until 2016. At the farm, she was an instructor. She ran charity horse shows and national and international horse trials. Christie has won numerous awards for her contributions as an equestrian and an event organizer. She's been a Sunday school teacher, a Boy Scout leader, and she has won first prize at a chili cook-off. And she's mother of 2 grown children and grandmother of 2 that visit her regularly. More recently, Christie has just completed her Master Naturalist training, and she's now a member of this group, the Cross Timber chapter of the Native Plant Society. This year, she begins the training program for the Cross Timbers Urban Forestry. All right, for the topic of the evening, as many of you know, Chandor Gardens will be opening a nature trail on the undeveloped portion of the property at Chandor Gardens. This is part of the master plan proposed by the Chandor Foundation, and it's supported by the City of Werherford. Christie has been following the trail's progress since before any work started. I asked her a few months ago what her role was in the trail's development, and after she thought for a moment, she said, enthusiastic volunteer. So tonight she's going to share her photographs and tell us the story of the trail. All right, thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Cindy. And I have to say that I'm more enthusiasm than knowledge, and I'm hoping you'll bear with me on this presentation, but I know some of you, and I know you're very nice, patient people. So, and I also want to thank Eileen Leslie because towards the end, you'll see the credits, but I am a small part of this presentation. It took a lot of people to get this together. So I'm going to start with some pictures of Chandor Gardens, just to reacquaint you if you're haven't been there recently, and point out that it's on the National Registry of Historic Places as well as the Texas Registry. And there's only 3 places in Parker County that are on the National Registry. And here we see a picture of Douglas Chandor and his lovely wife, Ina, and the front door, the bridge to the front door of their house. And you'll notice that picture on the left was just taken this winter. And the picture on the right is the same bridge that Douglas Chandor is sitting on over 50 years ago. So this has been really preserved beautifully. Here's some of his most iconic pictures that are hanging in the White House. Eleanor's in the White House. These 3 are in the National Gallery in Washington, D.C., and Queen Elizabeth, that's in her coronation robe gown, is in the British Embassy in Washington, D.C. And this studio is exactly as the studio is today. You can recognize the window, the bookshelves, the stairs going to the front door. So that's pretty exciting that we have this. These are pictures from the garden, and once again, the bowling green hasn't changed that much. The entrance has been changed to the other side of the property for easier access and parking. But the Dragon Fountain has recently been totally restored. This entrance, the side entrance, the Gray Garden, is still in existence, but has changed considerably from that photograph. These are pictures that were taken just this fall, and you can see this, the Gray Garden here has more lawn, and the fountain is really, really spiffy right now. It's all fixed up. I love these Japanese maple. That red is Japanese maple from, and this is just in October, this picture. Okay, so here we have come to the other side of the property. That little Gray Garden I showed you, that little circle is that Gray Garden. And over here, it's right here to get you oriented. This is that new entrance I told you about. And right now, this is a satellite, pretty recent satellite from this year. So you see the driveway coming in, and the actual trail, the trailhead being right off the driveway, going through the woods in a little loop, and then a circle, and then back over the bridge over a shallow creek crossing. And it's about a half a mile. And it's part of a plan that is a shared vision between the city of Werherford, the Parks, Recreation, and Special Events Department, and the Chandor Garden Foundation, which is composed of friends and interested citizens of the garden and advocates of the property to maintain its cultural legacy. So this trail is one step towards bringing this legacy forward and expanding Chandor Gardens. So here is the other side of the driveway. These pictures were just taken this fall. When Ina married Douglas, Ina's mother, Dova, who lived next door in a large Victorian house, donated this property to her new son-in-law and daughter so they could live next door. And this was described as a cow pasture. Barren land, cactus-covered caliche hillside with matted shells, hard as concrete. And here you can see these beautiful 100-million-year-old fossils that are all over the place. The old cattle trough, and what was undoubtedly much more open pasture. But this is kind of what it's looking like now. And Douglas Chandor came from the London School of Art. Here is this picture in the lower right. And I think that for him, it might have been a bit of a shock to come from England to this. And he immediately seemed to have visualized something new and transformative for this piece of property. And so he started working on turning it into this Shangri-La, and he named it White Shadows. And after his untimely death in 1953, at the age of 55, and then Ina's in 1978, the property was abandoned for 16 years. And you can see here what it looked like in the state it was in. And then Chuck and Melody Bradford stepped in and acquired it and restored it. And eventually they sold it to the city of Weatherford in 2002. Now, meanwhile, the thicket, that's what happened to the cow pasture. Most of it turned into a thicket. And the original idea of having that woodland trail go through it was just daunting. A while back, some scouts tried to go through it. It was too much. It just had been abandoned too long. So then I was walking my dog, Luke Skywalker, right there, through the parks of Aledo, which I had read, it had put in some trails, and I love to walk on trails. So I went out there and I was really impressed because look how open and nice this looks. And yet it's in an extremely dense development all around. And it was made for bicyclists, mountain bikers, and it was also just made for walking and looking at wildlife. And I was really impressed because it was exactly what Chandor needed. And the person who put this in, his name is Shadow John, and he did such a good job that I took pictures of this trail and I gave them to the city of Weatherford and to the foundation, and they also really liked it. And so they were all for it. So the city of Weatherford took bids from Shadow, and this is his original GPS proposal. And this trail is to be a natural 4-foot wide, 7-foot canopy, respectful of existing vegetation. And it seemed like a really good fit for Chandor. So he also had to have a bridge across a gulch that there's some big ravines back there, and he found a shallow creek crossing that could be done. So this was approved by the city of Weatherford, and work was scheduled to begin April of 2020. And then we know what happened in March. By then, the virus was so bad that Chandor got shut down. We were really all frightened that the whole project was going to be put on mothballs, including all of the activities at Chandor. So on July 28th, the Chandor Foundation presented the Weatherford City Council a video montage of the over 30 activities that were held at the garden, including one that ended up getting Chandor and the city of Weatherford a state-wide award for arts and humanities achievement. And this was probably due to the Clyburn program that Clyburn came to Chandor, which was the really fabulous outreach program that they were holding. So the city manager and the mayor, Paul Pascal, were reacquainted with the public support for Chandor's project. The Weatherford Democrat covered it, and about a year from inception, Shadow's work on the trail began again. which actually is kind of a miraculous thing considering how many people had to get together to get this thing rolling. These are pictures by the end of November. Shadow was completing this trail. And Shadow himself said, the property is a great site for a trail. It has an existing lockable gate entrance and ample existing parking. The terrain is mostly gently rolling with a couple slight elevation changes that will allow short climbs and descents. You'll notice that it's just a natural surface trail, and he goes around trees and doesn't do big tree removal. And the policy so far that I know is that access to the trail is only for pedestrians and people with dogs on a leash, and will be part of the Chandor Gardens admission fee and hours and policy. Here's some more pictures of, you can see that the elevation changes on this trail. They go from loamy down in the arroyo, and then they climb up and you see a really dramatic change in the plants. And then you start getting into some really neat fossils too. And here's wait a minute, gotta shut that off. The shallow bridge, which was built with treated lumber. It was with screws, rebar through the concrete. So it's a good job, a good little bridge. So look what we started to find right away. This was our first time into the woods, and it was several Chandor Foundation members, and we immediately became aware that there was a lot of stuff back in there. And Eileen found in a sort of a little dump site this incredible fragment and some old bottles, and there's a lot more old bottles that Cindy, we always give them over to Cindy. So she tracked this down and found that it was late 1800s. And we theorized that this fancy English design might have been owned by the Koopman family. They were very stylish people and very fancy people. We also saw, of course, in the fall, beautiful plants and wildlife. Some of these trees you're well familiar with. Sumac. Here Suzanne Tuttle pointed out the type of honeysuckle that is a native, and I hope I picked the right one there, and some native trees that she recognized by the bark. And again, everyone has more knowledge about this than I do, but I'm learning. I did spot this myself, and it turns out it's a fancy little black prairie clover, because I can't pronounce the other name. Lots of poison ivy there. Prickly pear, and we even found the little insect that makes the red dye on some of these prickly pears. So really, a lot of these are really neat plants that are well worth protecting in the wild and in their regional specialties, like the pale yucca and wild asparagus, the juniper. The animal life, this little fella did something amazing when Eileen and I were walking in the woods, and Eileen was taking pictures, and she got this picture. This kinglet flirted with us about an arm's length away from us, it was like it was a Christmas tree ornament. And it was so unafraid and so at ease and happy in this habitat. I kind of wonder, whether it shouldn't be made the emblem of this trail, but it's just a poetic moment that we had. And we saw deer tracks, we've seen coyote tracks, we've seen scat from raccoons. There's a lot of wildlife back there. Also, there is privet, heavenly bamboo, pistachio, photinia, and as Suzanne Tuttle pointed out, these invasive species are crowding and shading native species, and all along the trail, if we can make more room for those native species with a little work party here and there, we could really help it out. People that would probably be interested in these projects would be the master naturalists, and they've put the Chandor Gardens on their volunteer hours list, which is great. However, there are some limits right now because of the virus as to what they, what gatherings they'll have. But I believe trail maintenance is still okayed, but we're going to have to follow up on that. Then the urban foresters would probably be really interested in this. You all can probably tell me more than I could tell you all night about inside there. There are a lot of raptors flying in and out of these woods. Mississippi kite for sure in the summer, and some of our friends, the turkey buzzards, are there. And I'm sure that Native Prairie Association and Brit would also be interested. Now, this is a picture of Shannon Goodman, who took one of the, maybe we've only been in there about 6 times. Shannon Goodman, who's the head of Parks and Rec, and Jacob Kirkpatrick, who is his co-head of Parks and Rec on this project. And then a few of us master naturalist trainees of the class of 2020. So here's some of the immediate needs: is removing some of the cut branches from trail construction, because Shadow made the trail, but he, as Suzanne Tuttle pointed out, if we can get some of the lingering debris up, it'll allow the native plants to come up better. We have to be able to sort the artifacts from the garbage, because there really are some neat things there, and then there's just plain some trash there too. So we have knowledgeable, enthusiastic people. We just need to get together and do these things. So this is looking down on the trail from the trailhead, as if you were about to enter it from the gate that has not been made yet and will be made to open the trail to the public and have a ribbon cutting. And I was told that it was going to be in the spring, and that is all I know. The need right now is to get into the trail, and we have to go in a service entrance to get there. And then this is just a picture of the trail from about the midpoint of the trail. But it really shows what a serene and amazingly soothing place in the middle of the city of Werherford that we're managing to get into. That's it. I do want to give credits to the people who have done so much more than me. Eileen Leslie has told me a lot about the history of Chandor and helped me with the photos and putting this together. Shadow is a really talented person who has done a number of ranches, a number of city trails, and he does a really great job. We've used pictures from different sources, and we've gotten information from different sources here too. And all of these are resources that I'm sure you're aware of, but they're going to be valuable resources for this trail if we can keep it going. In my training this summer, I really became aware of how important it was to have green spaces, urban green spaces, for educating ourselves more, for introducing children to the wildlife. And this is a neat trail because it's only half a mile long, but when you get in there, you really feel like you've gone somewhere. So it's another place for enrichment at Chandor Gardens. And I hope we all get together and keep enriching it and keep enriching our community with it. So that's it. And I don't know how to find the question bar or do I stop sharing? Let's see.
You don't have to stop sharing if you click on the button that says chat at the center of the bottom screen, you can see the chat window.
Whoa. Wait a minute.
If you like, I can read the questions for you.
Oh, that would be good. Yes.
Okay. Are there any plans to have walks every few weeks in the spring and document plants?
I'd love to see that scheduled, and I would love to facilitate connecting the dots to do that. We'd have to go through Parks and Rec, and they're wonderful and enthusiastic about it. And then we'd have to also go through Chandor Gardens, and I just check in with Cynthia. And so the short answer is yes. Anytime someone wants to do that, let's put it together. I can do that. I hope.
So they should contact you.
Yeah, I'm not the head of anything, but I can. We can start scheduling something so that we could, if we know who wants to go, when they want to go, then I can go and get the permissions easily. And so could anyone else, actually.
And somebody else has asked about if they could volunteer to pick up trash and stuff like that and help clean up.
Yes. And once again, I've got my very knowledgeable trash person, Eileen, who found that beautiful plate and who knows the difference between trash and treasure, and we can coordinate that too. So once again, I can be a conduit. I'm not the be all and end all of this, but I can try and put that together and schedule it.
Okay, and we have a comment here from Rachel Sawinski, who says that she appreciates your sharing your presentations and expertise with others. The Mexican plum presentation, your chapter posted on YouTube today. So I guess that's from something that the Cross Timbers Master Naturalist did. Another question is the trail currently open? I think the answer to that is no, right?
Yeah, it would be something that we have to get permission from Parks and Rec and from Chandor Gardens and schedule in order to go in. And we can do it, but it's not right now officially open.
Okay.
And Parks and Rec really does want help with plant identification so that they can put together some kind of information pamphlet as a handout or as an educational tool for people when they do open it. So these little pre-opening trips can really be put to good use.
Is there any plan for any kind of signage?
I think he wants to put some signage at the opening of the trail at the gate, explaining what to look for. You know, again, that's when we can identify key native plants for people to look for and key evidence of wildlife and birds for people to look for. And right now, that's all I know, except for that we were thinking of putting together a little display of some of the artifacts that are in there, because as you know, people dumped stuff 100 years ago. they left it there, so there's some artifacts back there too, and some fossils.
I wondered if the plate or whatever, maybe they had a picnic there or something, but I don't know. Just my fantasy.
Yeah, it's a fantasy type of place.
Susan Bogle suggested that maybe you could set this up as a project on iNaturalist for people to find and identify plants.
Yeah.
And probably wildlife too, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I've talked to the Cross Timbers big INAT people about that, and they said spring is a much better time for that. But yeah, we can go in there and INAT right away, but to do a bio blitz there would be stupendous. And that would be probably better in the spring.
And Donna Hager asked if there was an intent to remove all the non-native invasive plants.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think we're going to need to get Parks and Rec to help us with a licensed herbicide applicator. So when we cut a privet, we can get the licensed application on it so it won't grow back. That's one thing that we got to work with Parks and Rec on. And they've been really open and cooperative, but they just have a lot of projects going right now. And any group of us, 4 or 5 of us with permission and clearance and everything, can go and remove brush and put it on the brush pile that is over there at Chandor that gets chipped, I think, or removed periodically. And again, we'd have to line it all up, but yeah, we can do that.
Great. And I was wondering if this would be something, a good site for one of our, the Native Plant Society's training programs, the NLCP class. You said that Suzanne had been there. I wondered if she would probably know if those if there were plants there that would be useful for that purpose.
Well, she would know. She did. She's I think on this call, but
Now, Bill, let me unmute. What was your exact question, Bill, about the plants?
I was wondering if this would be a good site for a NLCP class nature walk.
Well, it would actually be a really good site for the level 4, natural stewardship class, because it's a really cool site that transitions from this limestone prairie covered with, y'all saw pale yucca, and it goes down into this arroyo. It's a really nice walk, and I think as work is done, I think it becomes more and more of interest for the level 4 stewardship. You know, somebody could follow it from the current state, of somewhat degraded prairie to, as it goes through steps to regain more of the native cover. So
Oh, something to look forward to.
Yeah.
I'm just a connect the dots person. I'm not the head of anything, so I will try and facilitate whatever you all want to do. And I sure, personally, I'd love to see regular gatherings with some really knowledgeable person like Suzanne there, because I'm just a beginner. Okay, so, but I would love to be involved in it. Okay, does that help?
Yes. Let's see, did I miss any questions? I don't see any other questions. If anyone else has any questions, please speak up or write up, put them in the, I think this was a great presentation.
That was a great presentation. Thank you for introducing us to the trail, and we look forward to all the adventures we're going to have in the future out there. Thank you.
We're going to have adventures, and Cindy, thank you for getting me doing this. I wouldn't have done it without you, and also the Chandor Foundation, and specifically Eileen Leslie, but everybody who's backed this project. So it's not just me. I'm just one little tiny thing here.